So the first requirement is we're looking for price to cross a previous swing low, right? So the magenta line here is the SI swings, highs, lows indicator, right? And you can see it's marking the swing low points, and in green here is marking the swing high points. Right? So we're looking for a cross, one of the swing lines. So we get the crossing bar, and then we want 2 additional bars, and then a reversal up. And then we can see on that second reversal up bar, where the arrow is pointing to, that's where the signal is wanted here, right? So actually, this short signal is not wanted, but it's where the arrow is pointing. So it's the green long signal that's wanted here, and this is just an example of a non-setup here. So we had the crossover bar, but then we only had 1 continuation bar. So this would not be a long signal here, right? So we need a minimum of 2 bars after the crossover bar, right? So it's really it's 3 bars that close below the swing low or above the swing high, right? It would be the opposite for a swing high as well to generate a short signal, right? So this is definitely a reversal, a trend reversal signal, right? So price is breaking the previous low point, by 3 bars down, and then a reversal up for a long signal to go long there. All right, so that's what we're looking at building here. And let me get over to the chart. So we can see I've circled a couple of areas on the chart here. Let's get a little handy pointer going. So, right, we can see we got 1 bar that closed below the swing low, right, just barely closed below it, so that's our first bar, and then we have 2 more continuation bars down, and then reversal up, and so the signal would actually be on that bar right there. And we have another spot over here as well. So it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm pretty certain this would be, let's get another marker going here. So that would be the crossover bar, and then we have 2 bars afterwards. And then the signal would be on that second bar there. All right. So let me get BloodHound open here, and we'll get started. All right, well, first thing I'm going to do is put the file name in there. So, all right, so 21st. All right, so we have our BloodHound system named, right? We have a file name there. And I'm going to start building on the logic board. So click on the logic tab there. And we need to create a new logic template here. So let's see, some kind of a name to call this signal. Let's see. All right, so we got a swing point break with a reversal. All right, something like that. I guess that'll get us started. Okay. So let's see. The first thing I'm going to start with is the first component here of the rules here would be price crossing a swing point like that. So let's start with a crossover solver. Let's see, let's give this a name here. So we're looking for price to crossover a swing point or a swing line. I guess. And let's see. So input A, that's going to be the first component here, right? That'll be price. That'll be our price. So let's change the type here to price. There we go. And we're looking at the closing price of the bar. So we'll just leave this at the default closing price right there. Right? And then input B, that is going to be our indicator, right? That's going to be the swing lines there, or the swing points. So we need to we change this here. So we can change this indicator, to our swings, highs, lows indicator, or BloodHound actually has a shortcut. Since the swings, highs, lows comes with BloodHound, we actually have it incorporated in here, right? We can select swing point, right? Prices. So, and then we can see the settings are available here. Let's see, the settings I used, let's see, was 2 and 4. So the number of swings is 4. Swing sensitivity was 2. Right? And then next, we need to set up the plots. So if we open up this indicator, right, so we can see there's the, here I'll select off of it. So the swings, highs, lows right there. And we can see our settings. Number of swings is 2. Oh, you know what? I think I got it backwards. Hold on. Let me take a look at the screenshot. Might need to reverse it here. Let's see. 2, 1, 4, 2. No, I do have it right. Okay. So number of swings is 2, and swing sensitivity is 4. So let's reverse that here before we get going too far. So let's reverse this. There we go. Now I got the settings right. Okay, so let's open up the indicator list here. So you'll notice that, right, this swing, size, lows has 4 different plots here, right? So we have the tightest plots, which think of the tightest plots as typically those are the higher lows and lower highs. Now the widest plots, those would be like the highest high and the lowest low. Within basically within your look back series here. All right, so the number of swing points, the number of swings or number of swing points that the indicator is looking back, would obviously that affects which one ends up being the lowest low and which one ends up being the highest high for our widest plots here. But anyways, if you want more information on the swings, highs, low indicator, there's a video on it on the documentation page. So just to kind of get to the point quickly, we are using the widest plots here, right? The widest bottoms and the widest tops. So that's marking the lowest low and the highest high, of the last 2 swing points. So it's not looking back very far. Right, so there's the plots that we're using, widest bottoms, widest tops. And so when we go into the solver here, so when we're generating a long signal, we're using the widest bottoms, right? The magenta line, this is the bottoms, or the widest bottoms plot to generate a long signal. So, and let's see here. Yeah. Just kind of thinking, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, typically when you get a cross down, generally speaking, the solvers will produce a short signal, right? Because we're crossing down. But remember, ultimately our goal is to get a long signal. So we want this cross down to be converted into a long signal, because over here we're looking for a long signal. So we're going to need to like reverse the outputs here. So let's see. So for a long output, for a long, let's see, we're using the bottom plot, and for shorts would be the opposite. We'll switch that to tops. And let's see here. We want to reverse the output there. Bingo. All right. So we have this output option here, crosses against direction, right? So that allows us to reverse the output right here. So we got a cross down, but we're getting a long output, right? So it's opposite. So we managed to reverse the signal inside the solver itself. All right, so we're letting the solver do all the work. And now we're going to take this long signal and extend it forward in time, right? Because we need to get 2 more down bars as well. So I'm going to use this look back period and set that to 3, I believe. Yeah, there we go. So now we have a crossover signal that's been reversed and extended for 2 bars. And so now we're going to count those 2 bars. Or we're going to make sure that there's two down bars. And the way we can do that is simply use the bar direction solver. So all right, let's see. So with the bar direction solver, we need a minimum of 2 bars. And so as we look, when we get 2 up bars in a row, bingo, we start getting a long output. And as long as there's up bars, we get a long output. So this gives us an output when there's 2 bars in a row there. So and remember, we're trying to generate a long signal, but if you notice, we're getting short outputs here, but ultimately we want long outputs. So let's reverse this, and actually, this is a case where we can't use the inverter. So all right. You know what? Since we can't reverse this short to a long in the solver, I'm going to take a different approach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our crossover solver here, and instead of using the crosses against, I'm going to just use crosses in the direction. And I will need to switch my plots here. So I'm going to have to switch the plots. All right. So we're generating a short output using the bottoms plot, right? So the widest bottoms here, right? So if you just look at the chart, right, things look correct. So we're getting a short output when price crosses down. And that matches our bar direction solver here. All right, and we're going to reverse these short outputs here in just a moment. So, all right, so we got two parts, the 2 parts of rules here made. And next step is we're going to join them together using an AND node. And there we go. So 1, 2, 3. And if we look back here, let's look back on our chart. Well, look forward on our chart. So you'll notice there we got price crossing down. So we got one crossing marked there, but it didn't continue on. But we can see right here where it's circled, we got the crossing and it did continue on. Interesting. Actually, it doesn't look like this is going to qualify. Oh, no, this is correct. Yeah, this is the first bar. So this is the first down bar. So that didn't get marked because it's the first down bar. And once we got to the second down bar, then we got an output. Yeah, because remember, we need, with our bar direction solver, we're looking for 2 bars, minimum 2 bars here. So, and I guess the point is, we don't need all 3 of these bars marked with an output, right? We don't need a signal on all 3 bars. The only thing that's really important is that we have a signal on this second bar, right? That's what's critical here. So these previous 2, those eventually will get ignored, but a signal on this second bar after the crossing, that's what's critical. So going back here, right there, that's our second bar, and that has a short signal on it. So that's what's critical, is that one right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that short output and I'm going to reverse it or swap it, basically. All right, so our long short modifier, it's set to swap mode. And you can see now, right, the outputs have been swapped, right? So now it's been converted to a long signal there. So, and I'm going to rename this function node here to what it's doing. It's swapping the outputs, right? So there we go. So now we can see the name on that function node has been renamed. All right, so we're getting there. So now we need to do the second parts here. Let's expand the chart up. So the next part is we need this inflection here. We need to look for this inflection in price, or basically reversal, this reversal in price, which is also a inflection. So we're going to use the indicator inflection, although we're not actually looking for an indicator reversal. We're looking for a price reversal. So we'll take our input and we'll change that to price. And bingo, we can see all these reversal bars are now marked, right? All these reversal bars are marked with an output. So we can see we're getting an output on that bar, but we're going to need it actually on the second bar there. So what we're going to do is take another bar direction solver, plug that in, and we want 2 bars, right? We need a minimum 2 bars here. So we've got the reversal bars, the first one, and then we're waiting for a second bar. And so there's our output, right? So again, let's go back to this inflection solver, right? You notice the inflection solver just has an output on 1 bar, but we're going to need an output on the second bar as well from the inflection solver. So we can take the look back and set that to 2. Right, there we go. So we got 1, 2. Now let's connect everything up. with the AND node, and there we go. So we've got an output there on the second bar after the reversal. All right, so that's another part. Now we just need to link, these two groups of logic together, right? And you might think that we can just take an AND node, plug everything into another AND node, like so. But we're getting nothing. So what's going on here? So let's take a look at that. Take a look at this back here. Now, what's happening is you see the output stops on this down bar, right? The output stops on that down bar. And if we take a look at this logic down here, its output's over here, right? So we got outputs on two different bars. So that's why nothing's coming out of the AND node, because there's no, right? We don't have outputs on the same bar. So what we have to do is, right, the output coming from the top logic here, right? So this logic here, we need to take the output from here and extend it forward 2 more bars, right? We have to extend it forward 2 more bars, waiting for this second up bar. So the way we can do that is we can grab a look back node. A look back node there, right? And let's plug that look back node in. And so let's see, we can do this two ways here. I'm actually, let's see, yeah, I'm going to use the displacement. I'm not sure one's better than the other, but we could use a displacement and set that to 2. And well, let's connect that into the result node. There we go. Let's connect that up. Okay, so a displacement of 2, right? We can see the signal has now been pushed forward 2 bars. Right? It's been displaced forward 2 bars. So we could do it that way, or I could set the displacement to 0 and set our look back. If you notice, the look backs start at 1, right? You can't put a 0 in there, right? Look backs, a period, so anything that has the word period in it always has to start at 1, right? There's no such thing as a 0 period, right? An SMA 0 period, right? No such thing. So look backs always start at 1. So we start with 1 and we need to add 2 more bars. So a look back's going to actually have 3. Look back period of 3 in this case, and we want, yeah, maximum. And so you can kind of see right there is a subtle difference. I mean, for the purposes of the logic we're building, a look back would work fine, because the main requirement is that we just need a long output right on the signal bar. So the signal bar needs the output. That's what's critical. So we could use the look back or not. So yeah, I'm just going to go with the displacement, right? So again, we have a long output on the signal bar, right? Where our green arrow is, that's what's important. So, and all right, so we've basically we've taken right the price crossing the swing low. We've taken this part of the logic, or this part of the rules, and we've now extended it forward onto the signal bar. So now, If we plug that into an AND node and take a look at it, now we have our signal in the right spot. Let's scroll back here and take a look at the previous one. And there it is. There we go. So right as we marked it. So, and let's say there's one more cleanup that we can do here. You know, basically when you have an AND connected directly into an AND, really you can get rid of one of the AND nodes. So you know, I could get rid of this AND node and just connect these straight into there, and you get the same thing. All right. So let me just kind of clean this up a little bit. Just move that up there a little higher. All right. So there it is. There's our rule. Or there's the system built. So great. So I guess we're done with this question. And let me take a look at Peter's question here. All right. So Peter's got a question about volume here. All right. So he wants to detect volume spikes per se. So let's see. Whenever volume goes above 1,000 contracts. All right, so we're doing a 1-minute chart. Let's see. So there's two kind of components here to Peter's question. All right, so let's see. So Peter on. All right, so on a 1-minute chart, let's see. Peter's looking for bars where volume exceeds something like 1,000 contracts, and then on a Renko chart, let's see. You're looking for a long output of 25% if in a downtrend. Okay, so it sounds like on the Renko chart you're looking for reversal signals. So if you're in a downtrend, you want to get a long output, and take it if the Renko bars are in an uptrend, you want to get a short output. All right. So Peter, the thing I need to know is how are you determining whether you're in an uptrend or a downtrend? All right, so tell me what indicator you're using to detect uptrends and downtrends. All right, then we can get that second question answered there. So, all right, in the meantime, let me work on the volume question here. So, let's close this out, and let's prepare to change our chart. All right, so let's go to 1-minute bars here. And let's get volume on our chart. But first, let me kind of hide the swings, highs, lows indicator and set that back into the background there. All right, and now let's add volume to the chart. Let's see here. We got blue 5. That should work. Okay. There's volume. Let's move this up. And I'm going to draw a little visual aid here on the chart. All right, set that to 0. There. All right, so there we go. We got a little line marking the 0 line, and let's lock that. All right, so we can see we do have definitely have some bars here, or it's spiking above 1,000 contracts. So it's good. It's good working condition. All right, so let's open up BloodHound again, and let's go to our logic board, and let's make a new logic template here. So, all right, so we were looking for volume, see, greater than 1,000 contracts. And to do this, that's simply a threshold solver there, right? So we're looking for when the indicator crosses that 1,000 threshold. So 1,000 is our threshold here, and let's zoom in a little bit. All right, connect that up. All right, so let's see here. We're looking for volume greater than 1,000, like so. And for type, let's see, we have volume as one of our types. So we actually don't need to use the volume indicator. We can just change the type to volume. And we're looking for 1,000 contracts. So, and then let's set our outputs here. So, so we're going to generate an output when, we're going to get a long output when the volume is greater than 1,000, and a short output when the volume is greater than 1,000. And if you look at BloodHound, there we go. Right. You notice how BloodHound's kind of given us this analog kind of output, right? It's giving this analog output. So if you want a nice clean on or off output, right, a nice clean digital output, we can put 1,000 in B as well. And now we can see, right, the outputs look a little cleaner in digital. So now we have just the bars, right, the bars that have more than 1,000 contracts are marked. Nice and clean looking. So I guess we'll do it this way. So, now the reason why I'm generating a long and a short output, right, is because volume isn't directional based, right? It's other, if you're using volume to kind of make trading decisions, right? There's other, you're using actually other components, whether it be price action or other indicators, to determine, the direction of the trend. Volume is just kind of like a marker, or a trigger. The volume's more like a trigger, kind of a triggering event. It's not really it's not directional. Volume's not directional. It's just more of a trigger or heads up. So with volume, you typically want to generate a long and a short output. Since anything that's kind of non-directional, any kind of condition that's kind of a triggering condition, but non-directional triggering condition, you want to generate a long and a short output like that. And then other solvers, using other indicators or whatever price, would then determine the direction of the direction of the signal, along with the volume there. So, all right, so we have the volume part done. So let me look at the chat board here and see what Peter has got for me. All right, let's see. So Peter would like to use a linear regression 100 on the Renko chart. Okay. All right. And then he's got some follow-up questions. Okay. Well, all right. So let's take one thing at a time here. All right. So back to the Renko chart question. So let me make a new logic template here. All right. So the second question is where you want to generate a long, but only a 25% output in a downtrend. Yes, okay, yep. And we're going to use the linear regression to do that. All right, let's see. Let's switch our chart again to a Renko chart. Let's see, how about we do a 5 Renko chart this time. Okay, and let's get the linear regression on here. So let's see, there's two ways we could do this. We have the linear regression, and we also have the linear regression slope. You know, I guess I'll just use the linear regression. So, and let's see, a 100 period. And let me change the color so it doesn't look like the bars. There we go, a little different. And let's make this a little thicker so we can see it. All right, there we go. There's our linear regression indicator. And let's go back to our logic board. All right, so you know what we're looking at is the slope of the linear regression. So let's grab a slope solver here, like so. And let's give this a name here. So we're using the linreg indicator with a 100 period. All right, that's what we're going to use. So next thing is, right, let's change our indicator. Let me open this up a little bit there. So let's change our indicator here to the linear regression. So click on the button. Let's go down to the L's. There we go. Scroll down a little bit. All right, there's our indicator. Let's add it to the list like so. And let's change the period. There we go. So 100 period. And linear regression only has one plot, so it's already, that plot's already selected for us. There we go. And now we just need to get the outputs correct. So, you know, as we can see looking at the chart, right, whenever the linear regression is sloping down, we're getting a short output. And when it starts to slope back up, right, we're getting a long output. And we can see over here, right over here, the linear regression is kind of flattish, and it's just going up and down, up and down, up and down. We're getting, you know, kind of mixed, choppy results there. All right, as the slope goes up and down, up and down. So, all right, now, but we need to reverse kind of this output here, right? So the question was, you know, in a downtrend, we want a long output here. So instead of using the output in direction, right, we're going to set that to 0. We want to use against direction. We want an output that's against the direction. Right, so there we go. So now the linear regression is sloping down, and we're getting a long output. Right. So now back to the second part. We only want a 25% output. So what I can do is I can change my output to 0.25, like so. And there we go. Our output is now 0.25. So if I stretch this out, and if I shrink the scale, right, there we go. So we can see right up there's 1 or 100%, and we can see the output is down here. We can actually see the flag, right? We can see the price marker there. It says 0.25, so that's 25% right there. So we can just by changing the value, right, for the output section here. So just by putting 0.25, we're getting a maximum of 25% output there, as Peter wanted. So, all right, that's all we had to do. All right, so let me see if Peter has any follow-up questions on this. Peter's wanting to do is take different solvers, so such as like the linear regression that I have, and kind of add them together. So if we take other solvers that also have different output values, and we want to add them together to eventually build up to a 100% output. Yeah, okay. So, all right, I get you, Peter. Let's see. Well, there's a couple ways we could do this. As you see, we could, we could actually directly, change the output like that, so eventually, what you're going to get to is using the additive node. Right? The additive node just does just what it says. It adds everything together that's plugged into it. Right? So there's kind of two ways of affecting a solver's output. We could directly put in 0.25, or if you look at this additive node, right, you see how it has a slider here? So this linear regression 100 slope, right? There's the name of this solver, right? This solver shows up when I select the additive node, right? It shows up here, and it has a slider, and I can directly influence the output there. So if you look at the chart, right? If you look at the output here, right? That's 100%. That's the full 25% output. And if I slide this down, right, I'm decreasing that 25% output more and more and more. So I have these sliders as well as another way of doing that. Right, so the typical way is usually we'll just keep the output of the solver to 1. Right, we'll just go with the standard practice. Set your solver outputs to 1, and then in the additive node, or basically in the logic node, so all of these logic nodes, all have this slider here. And I can take the slider and knock it down to 25%, like so. Right? And what that has done is, right, if I select our slope solver, right, you notice there's a slider on this solver here. So if you look, it's set at 25%. Oh, actually, let me go put that back there. Right, so this slider, when I click on the solver node, there's its slider. But then on the additive node, if I click the logic node, right, you can see here's the solver below it as well. So let's get another slope solver on here, as Peter suggested. And Peter's suggesting a, let's see, it was a, let's see, an HMA 50. Well, no, just HMA. Okay, so let's just put an HMA on there. And let's plug an HMA into the solver. Let's see, HMA defaults to 21. Okay, so there we go, HMA 21. I'll adjust the name there, HMA 21. All right. There we go. And let's put the HMA on the chart as well. Let's see, we got cyan. All right, good enough. Okay, there's an HMA 25. So let's get back to our logic board. right, so I take it we probably want to reverse the output for the HMA just like we did for the linear regression. So let's reverse that output there. Okay, there we go. So when our HMA is sloping down in a downtrend, we're getting a long output, and the opposite for when the HMA is sloping up, we're getting a short output. Okay, so now let's plug that in there into the additive node, like so. Now let's click on the, so you can see I've got the additive node highlighted or selected, and now it has two sliders below it, right? So we have our HMA solver and our linear regression slope solver. And so you can see I can adjust the slider for each one. And sometimes it's hard to get that slider exact, so I'll just type in 25. There. If we look at our output, right, we see how the output kind of staggers. It goes from 25, then up to 50, then down to 25, right? So the additive node is adding these guys together here. So let's kind of stretch this out here. So we can see areas where when both of these moving averages are sloping down, right, we're getting a long output. And if both of the moving averages are sloping up together, we're getting a short output. Then if the moving averages are disagreeing with each other, right, so the linear regression is sloping down, but the HMA is sloping up, then we get, right, mixed results here. We get long and short together. So, like that. All right, so that's where we are so far. And I guess just to emphasize, right? So remember our HMA slope solver, I adjusted the slider. So now if I click on our HMA slope solver, if I take a look up top here where the mouse is, you can see that slider, right? That slider has been adjusted. So on the logic nodes, these sliders, these are the sliders of the actual solvers that are plugged into the logic node. Right, so these sliders actually belong to each of these solvers. Right, we can see every solver has its own little slider and multiplier. Also, just keep in mind there's a multiplier up here as well. So, yeah. So, yeah. So there we go. Now, if you'd like to, there's another video here, that you can watch, Peter, that'll give you more information on the additive node, and also the ratio node. Who knows? Maybe the ratio node might be effective in your logic here. So if we go to help, if we go to documentation, bring that web page up, and let's see here under BloodHound. If we scroll down, keep scrolling down. Here we go, logic nodes, right? You see the logic nodes section. So there's a kind of a summary, of the logic nodes. If we scroll down, summary of them. But if we go directly to the page, there we go. Here's our logic nodes. So there's our additive node right there. If we click on that, and so here's a page on the weight slider controls as well. But if we go to the additive node, So there's the written example. And let's see, the video's not there. Oh, right. Let's see, the video is going to be in the Getting Started section. Let's go to the Getting Started. And let's see, it's going to BloodHound. There we go. Scroll down a little bit. Logic nodes. There we go. So there's a video on the different logic nodes. So this video will give you a little better explanation, of using the additive node, and also introduce you to the ratio node. So that might help you as well. All right. So to get there, let me scroll up to the top here. So we're in the BloodHound Getting Started guide, right? So just click on the Getting Started, or let me show you a more direct way. So if we go to Support, if we click on Documentation, right, it takes us to the start page here, right? Here's the start page, and then we'll go into BloodHound. Yeah, I'm going to BloodHound, and there we are. Now we're on the BloodHound Getting Started page, and then just scroll down. It's near the bottom. Scroll down near the bottom. Yeah, and there's our logic nodes. So, yeah. All right, so let me take a look at the board and see if there's any other questions here from Peter, or follow-up questions from anybody else. Just a moment here. Like, yeah, Peter would also like to throw in that volume solver as well. Okay, you bet. So, so let me add that volume. All right, there's that volume solver. All right, it's inside the existing nodes. I can drop that on here. Connect that in, and now I'll click on the additive node, and so here's the solver for that one. So let's say volume is worth 50%. So we got 25, 25, and 50, so it'll add up to 100. And let's maybe the volume needs some adjusting, but there we go. There's the results. Keep in mind, right? So remember, I took the volume threshold solver, right, and I adjusted it to 0.5, right? This solver. Now, if I switch over to my other logic template, right, the one that has just the volume alone, so change my logic template. So if I click on that solver, interesting. All right, I guess there's been a slight change. Well, nice. All right. Well, it used to be that the slider, this node, its slider would be affected as well, but I see it's not. Oh, good. So it looks like that has been improved. Yeah. Subtle improvement there. Very nice. Okay. Good. I think we're done with Peter's question. All right. Good deal. Thank you, Peter. Frank's got more of a general question for the slope solver. So he's asking, can you check the slope, check the slope of an indicator over a range of bars? So, for example, here, let's kind of zoom in. So let's pick on the HMA here, and let's say we want to check that the HMA has been sloping upward for a number of bars, or better yet, how about we take, let's kind of create a more complex example here. So let's say we want to get rid of this kind of flat area of the linear regression, right? And so we kind of want to get rid of this area. So I'll mark it kind of reddish. So we kind of want to exclude the moving average when it's kind of flat, and only consider the moving average when it has a decent kind of slope to it, right, or back here. But we want to make sure that the slope has been occurring for a number of bars. How can we do that? So let's start a new logic template here. All right, so we want to evaluate the slope over X number of bars. All right, let's grab a new slope solver here. Actually, instead of grabbing a new one, I'm going to take this linear regression and I'm going to make a copy of it, so that way I'm not messing around with the original one. All right, so we got a linear regression 100, and I'll just call this number 2, so I know it's the second one. There. Okay, so I've got a solver to work with. So let's put this on the board here. Linear regression. There we go. All right, so if you look at all the available options and parameters here, you might notice that there's a slope period. Now, what that does is that applies an additional smoothing to your indicator. So in this case, it would be the linear regression. So the slope period, that's not looking back, X number of bars. That's applying an SMA smoothing, right? This would be so if I put 10 in there, that would be taking the linear regression 100 and then throwing that into an SMA 10 to apply additional smoothing to it. So that's not what we want to do that. So yeah, if you want to look back X number of bars, to make sure that your moving average has been sloping down for a certain number of bars, we're going to use the look back function node for that. But first, before I get going too far here, so remember I wanted to cut out this kind of flat area here, and you can see BloodHound, right, where the moving average is kind of sloping up, down, up, down, up, down. It's a little choppy right there. So let's apply, I'm just going to take a guess here. Let's apply a minimum slope here. All right. Yeah, here we go. Good example. So, right, so we can see some of this flatness has been cut out, but we do have an occasional, bar or two, right? So there's one bar. There's another bar, right, where the moving average, oh, hold on. Let me, yeah, here's another reason why I wanted to make a copy is remember our outputs are reversed. So let's put the outputs back to normal. There we go. Okay, so there we go. moving average is sloping down. Now we're getting a short output. So little. All right, so we're back to kind of norms. So we can see our linear regression had just kind of barely started moving upwards. You know, it popped up a little bit. Now it happened twice here. But you know, I guess kind of getting back to the one of the points of Frank's question is, you know, how can we get rid of these, you know, long outputs here that, you know, we're still kind of choppy, but you know, we only got this one bar and then it failed. You know, how can we get to a more reliable kind of indicator sloping situation, you know, such as here where we have, you know, multiple bars where the indicator's sloping down. So, all right, so the way we can do that is our look back. Let's grab our look back, plug that in. So we're interested in looking back X number of bars, so we're going to turn the displacement off. You know, we don't want to shift the values forward. What we're interested in is, let's say we want a minimum, you know, of 3 bars. So we want that linear regression sloping, you know, sloping in one direction, a minimum of 3 bars. So we put 3 in there, and then we want a minimum of 3 bars. So we'll set that to min. And we can see, right, those single bar long outputs, they're gone now in this area. And we can also see that, you know, the linear regression has been sloping down for a couple of bars, but we finally get the output here on the 3rd bar. So now the output shows us when the linear regression has been sloping down for a minimum of 3 bars. So let's see if there's any follow-up questions on this. All right, doesn't look like it. Okay. Well, with that, I'll say have a good rest of your week and have a great weekend. And tomorrow is Blackbird's workshop. So if you guys have any questions for Blackbird, come join in tomorrow. All right, and those are the Blackbird questions. So if you don't have Blackbird, you can still come and check it out and see what Blackbird's all about. All right, so all right, everybody. With that, I'll say have a good weekend, and I hope to see you guys next week with more questions. All right, bye, guys.